Hi everyone, thanks for joining this NBS Chorus Masterclass covering the use of tables in Chorus. Before we get underway, a little bit of housekeeping for today's session. The webinar will last a maximum of 45 minutes. During the session, your microphones will be muted. You can use the questions box on the GoToWebinar control panel to ask questions. We'll follow up by email after the session. Also, this session will be made available to watch again later via the NBS website. For those of you who don't already know me, my name is Martin Marks and I am one of the trainers at NBS. I'll be taking you through the webinar today. The agenda is deliberately quite short for today's session. That's because this masterclass is specifically focused on the recently introduced tables and related functionality. I'll start by explaining where tables can be used in Chorus and who can use them. I'll then explain how tables can be created in the various places they can be included. Next, I'll explain some functionality related to tables. Then I'll switch into Chorus and walk you through inserting and editing tables within the body of the specification, inserting and deleting rows and columns within the tables, and creating row and column headers within the tables. I'll also show how they will look when published. Finally, I'll walk you through updating a copy of your existing custom style sheet to include new formatting styles for tables. So, where can tables be included? Tables can be included within the body of your specification. They can be included in row title and row value style rows. These rows are also referred to as name and value style rows and also as value pair rows. And by this, I mean rows with a row label on the left and a row value field on the right, similar to the example you see on screen at the moment. Tables can be included in any of the row value fields on the right. However, they cannot be included in the row labels of any duplicated or user added rows. Tables can also be included in sentence style rows. And by sentence style rows, I mean a row with just a single long value entry field, similar to the example you see on screen at the moment. You can add tables in the rows within the user added clause or article in sectional based content and other user added sentence style rows. However, you cannot add tables into any existing NBS sentence style rows. This functionality applies to all Chorus subscription plan levels. So that's Chorus, Chorus Pro and Chorus Enterprise, and within all content sets and in all libraries within each content set. Tables can also be included into specification notes and of course organization notes. With organization notes, the table can be included within the main body of the note. However, tables cannot be included within the org note titles. And also, I'm sure you'll be aware, only your Chorus organization administrators can add org notes. And just to mention that spec notes and org notes are both Chorus Pro and Chorus Enterprise features. So this functionality is not available with the base Chorus plan. So, how can tables be included? There are three methods by which tables can be included. Firstly, via the three-dot menu button. This button is available to the left of all rows within the editor when hovering the mouse cursor over them or having clicked into them. This menu button is not available, however, with the spec notes or org notes functions, so this method can only be used within the main Chorus editor. Next, via keyboard shortcuts, which is Control, Shift and G on a Windows PC, or Command, Shift and G on a Mac. This method is available in all locations where tables can be inserted. However, you will need to have clicked into the desired location for the table first. Finally, tables created in external applications such as Microsoft Excel or Word can be transferred into Chorus via a simple copy and paste process. This feature is intended to transfer basic tabular data from the source application. Any formatting, alignment or formulas, for example, in the source application will not be replicated. Also, merged cells are not supported in Chorus tables. As such, any merged cells in the source application should be unmerged prior to transferring the table across. It should also be noted that tables added in this manner are not embedded from or linked to the source application in any way. Any changes to the source data will need to be updated in Chorus manually, or the table copied and pasted again. So, now some functionality related to tables. User added rows can be toggled. That is, rows which have been added in the clause or article from the three-dot insert new row functions. These can be toggled between row title and row value style rows and sentence style rows. If a row title and row value style row is toggled to a sentence style row, the row title gets added as the top line of the sentence row. This can then be formatted to suit, for example with a colon or bold style, to distinguish it as a title. If a sentence style row is toggled to a row title and row value style row, the whole row is transferred to the row value field on the right. A suitable label can then be entered. An updated custom style sheet is available to download now from the Chorus support articles. This has table styles embedded within it to allow you to control the format of your tables when publishing your specification. If you haven't yet started your custom style sheet, please ensure you download the latest version and use that. If, however, you've already created or started your custom style sheet, I'll be showing you how you can transfer these table styles over at the end of this webinar. Lastly, and partly related to tables, and partly as a general improvement, it is now possible to view an entire org note from the org notes grid simply by clicking on it. Whilst this is a general improvement, allowing long org notes to be viewed in full, it also allows tables within org notes to be viewed. It's probably wise just to quickly note again that org notes and indeed custom style sheets are both Chorus Pro and above features. I'll now switch into Chorus and walk you through inserting and editing tables, inserting and deleting rows and columns in tables, and creating row and column headers in tables. So, firstly, inserting tables into a row within the editor. So, by way of an example, I'm already editing my internal signage system clause. There's going to be a variety of different size signs of varying unit weights and fixed to various backgrounds. Each different combination of weight and background requires a different method of fixing. So rather than trying to express that in words, it's going to be easier for me to show that within a table. So first of all, I want to include this table in the fixings row. Now, if I hover my mouse cursor over or click into that row, Then click on the three-dot menu button and select Add a Table. The table now appears in that row, as you can see. The same would have occurred if I had used the keyboard shortcut I mentioned earlier. Now, to edit the table and enter my data, I simply need to click on it. I'll start with my column headers. Now, if I need extra columns, I can right-click over a column, and I have the options to insert a column to the left or to the right. Now, for my first row of data. And I can use the Tab key on the keyboard to move to the next cell. Now for my second row of data. Now, I realised I've missed the 2 to 5 kilogram category. So I can right-click over the 5 to 10 kilograms row and insert a new row above. Then enter the required data. Finally, I have one more weight category. So I'll right click over the last row and insert a new row below, and then enter my data. So that's my table data entered. I just need to click on Done to save it, then save the clause. Now, the table might look a little squeezed up, but when it's published, it will optimize the column widths. Let's have a quick look at that now. So I'll just open that now and navigate to the table. So you can see the table looks okay when published. The publishing function will automatically adjust the column widths to suit the column contents. Let me go back to it and make a couple of changes to show this. I'll just navigate back to the clause and then click on it to edit it. Now, if I want to edit the table, I just simply click on it and I'll make my changes. And as before, I just click on Done to save my changes to the table. Then I'll save the clause again and publish it again. And as before, just open that up. Now it's downloaded. And navigate to the table. You'll see the column widths have been adjusted automatically. Okay, but it doesn't really stand out as having headers at the top and at the left of the table. Let me edit the table once more. Just navigate back into it, enter the clause, and click on the table to edit it. So if your table uses the top row as headers, you can place a tick in the top row as header checkbox. This will put a light grey background to the top row and make the text bold. Similarly, if your table uses the first column as headers, you can place a tick in the first column as header checkbox. This shades and bolds up the first column as well. Now, when published, the grey shading and the bold font style will be replicated in the output. Also, these tick boxes determine the table style when you publish using the updated custom report template. The updated template has 4 table styles. One for no headers, in other words, both checkboxes are unticked. One for both column and row headers, in other words, both checkboxes are ticked. One for just row headers and one for just column headers. In other words, only one of the checkboxes is ticked in each case. So I'll save this as before and publish again. And I'll just open that now it has downloaded and navigate to the table. So you can see more clearly now, the first row and column are headers. So that, in essence, is how you insert and create tables in the editor, add or delete rows and columns in the table, set the first row and or column as headers, and how they look when they're published with the standard output. You can also insert and work with tables in spec notes and org notes if you have access to those features. Inserting the table would need to be done using the keyboard shortcut for spec notes and org notes. Let me show you in a spec note. I'll just open the masonry wall leaf systems and click into the spec notes tab over here at the top right hand corner. Then I'll just click into the note editor at the bottom of the screen. Now I need to use the Control, Shift and G to insert a blank table. And there it is. I can then click on it to open in the table editor. And in here, all works the same as I showed before. Let me just enter a simple table. And as before, just click Done to save the table, then Send to add the spec note against this clause. It works in exactly the same way in organisation notes as well. The other method you can use to insert tables is to copy them from an external application such as Microsoft Excel, then simply paste them into either the body of the specification or into a spec note or an org note. Let me show you this with an org note. I'm just going to switch into my small unit unbound paving system and then click on the org notes tab. Then I need to click on create a new organisation note. And just to recap on what I mentioned previously, only organisation administrators can add an organisation note. Now, you cannot add tables into the title field. So I'm just going to quickly type a short title. Now, if I switch into Excel, this has the table I want to use. I'll just highlight my table and copy. Then switch back into Chorus and click into the note section of the org note and simply paste the table. And click Create to save my org note with the table within it. So that's my org note created. And this method can be really useful if you want to include the same table in multiple places. So in this instance, I want the same table in an org note for all 4 of my paving system clauses. So I'll just repeat for the other 3 paving clauses. So that's now repeated for those other 3 clauses. Now let's have a look at one of the other related features which I mentioned earlier, which is the ability to view the full table from the org notes grid. I'll just click on the Chorus logo in the top left corner to go back to my dashboard, and then just click on the org notes tab. So at the top, these are the 4 tables I created just before, and you'll clearly see that the full table isn't visible. But if I click on this one at the top, it'll open a dialog allowing me to view the whole table. If I close that and then scroll down, here's another table that I have added within my organisation notes. And again, it's clearly not the full table, but I can click on it to view the full details within that table. So that's inserting and working with tables in Chorus. Now let me just touch on the updated custom style sheet. And I should probably also note that custom style sheets is a Chorus Pro and Chorus Enterprise feature. So the style sheet, which you can download now from the support articles, has been updated to include 4 different table styles. With the table styles, you can change certain aspects of the table formatting. Let me just show you a quick example. So this example is actually in a common arrangement of work sections specification and within a user clause which I have added. So in this clause I have added 4 versions of the same table. Let me just click into that clause to edit it. And firstly, I'll quickly show you one of the other related features. These tables are all in user rows, which I've added at the top of this clause. I parked the original 3 rows at the bottom of this clause. And because these are user added rows, I can toggle them from the sentence style row, as they are now, to a row title and row value style row, and indeed vice versa. So the way you do that is you click on the 3-dot menu button for the row, then select the change row type option. So I've just toggled this first row. A couple of things to mention here. Firstly, you can see that the row now has a row title to the left and a row value to the right. But the other thing to note is that with row title and row value style rows, as this row is now, you're potentially going to see less of the table in the editor screen. So if we compare row 1 to row 2, which is still a sentence style row, you can clearly see more of the table in the sentence style row for row 2. Now, there are a number of ways you could view more or all of the table. Firstly, you could minimize the guidance panel at the right hand side just by clicking on the collapse arrow buttons. And you could just hide that temporarily and you can see more of the table here. Let me just bring back the guidance panel, however. Secondly, you could reduce the level of zoom in your browser, again temporarily. And you can see if I reduce that, I can now see the whole table. Let me just restore that to where it was previously, however. Or thirdly, you can click on the table to open it in the editor to view it. I'll just close that, and I'm just going to toggle this row back to a sentence style row. Okay. Now, in these 4 tables, although they have identical content, the header arrangements are different for each one. The first table has both the first row and first column as headers, as you can see from the grey shading. The second one just has the first column as headers. The third one just has the first row as headers. And the last one has no headers at all. And if I publish this now with a custom style sheet, in the custom style sheet I'm using here, I've made a couple of changes to each of the 4 different table styles. I'll just open the published specification. The first table, which has both the top row and first column ticked as headers in Chorus. For this one, in the custom style sheet, I put a general blue background shading for the whole table and different colour shading for the first row and a different colour shading for the first column, as you will see. The second one, with just the first column ticked as headers, I put a green shading to the row headers on the left and changed the font. The third one, with just the first row ticked as headers, I put a blue shading to the column headers at the top and change the grid line colour and weight for the whole table. And the last one, which had no headers in Chorus, I've just put a light grey background to the whole table. So, as you have seen, you can have different formats for each of the 4 different table styles independently. As I mentioned before, if you haven't yet started your custom style sheet, please ensure you download the latest template and use that. If you have already created or started your style sheet, however, I'll show you now how to transfer the new table styles over into it. So first thing you'll need to do is download the latest template. If you go to the Help menu, then select Read Our Support Articles option. Now, there are a few steps in what I'm going to show you. These are all, however, documented down in the Copying Table Styles into Existing Style Sheets article. And this appears in the Tables section of the support articles. So the first thing you'll need to do is download the custom style sheet, and you can access that from the download the NBS custom style sheets support article in the Styling Your Specification for Chorus Pro and above. And at the bottom of this support article, I just scroll down, this is where you can access the template downloads. There's one for the UK and Australia, and a separate one for Canada. Just make sure you download the appropriate one for your region. As I'm in the UK, I'll download that one. Now it's downloaded, I'll open it up. And for me, I need to click on Enable Editing at the top of the screen here. So, next thing you'll need to do is to open the Style Manager. You can do this by clicking on this button at the bottom right of the Styles section on the Home ribbon toolbar, or by using the keyboard shortcut Alt, Control, Shift and S. At the bottom of the panel, now displayed here on the right, there will be a Manage Styles button. For me, it is this third button here. But if you're not sure, just hover your mouse cursor over each of the buttons in turn. A pop-up will be displayed, a pop-up hint that is, and just select the one where the hint indicates Manage Styles. So at the bottom of this dialog box, there is an Import/Export button. Click on that, and the Organizer dialog is then displayed. So at the right-hand side, it will show the normal .m file. So you'll need to close this by clicking on the Close File button. Then click on the Open File button. The Open File dialog is then displayed, and this will default to show only Word template files. So you'll need to change this to all Word documents. Next, you'll need to navigate to the copy of the style sheet that you want to add the table styles into. So for me, I'll just find the folder. And then you need to select it and click Open, or simply double click on it. Now, the list box at the left-hand side will list all of the 4 table styles. So you will need to just scroll down to find them. So these are Chorus Table, Chorus Table col row headers, Chorus Table first column as headers, and Chorus Table top row as header. So you need to select all 4 of these. Just click on the first one, then hold the Shift key down on the keyboard and click on the last one. This will highlight all 4 of them, as you can see. Next, just click on the copy button in the center between the 2 list fields. This has now copied those 4 table styles over. We can now close the dialog, and when prompted, click on Save. Next, you'll need to navigate down to page 3 of the template file that you downloaded and highlight and then copy. I'm using Control-C on the keyboard here to copy. So highlight and copy the 4 example tables. Now you'll need to open the style sheet template that you uploaded into the table styles into. Let me just switch to my file browser here, and this is the style sheet I want to copy those table styles into. So I'll just open that and navigate down to the content section. And some of you may recognize this style sheet template. It's the one that I created in one of our previous style sheet webinars. Now I need to just paste the example tables that I copied just before the deleted clause group revisions only text that you see there. And I'm just using Control-V to paste those tables. And now I'll just save that file. So that is the new table styles now transferred over into the existing custom style sheet. And I'll show you very briefly an example of how you can adjust the table formatting. So you would click on the example table that you want to change the formatting of. And then from the Table Tools section, navigate into the Design menu. The corresponding table style will be highlighted in the Table Styles section of the ribbon. So you would now right-click over this and select Modify Table Style. And I'm going to start with the changes that I want to make to the whole table, which you'll note is already selected in the Apply Formatting to field. So I'll start by putting a light blue background to the table. And dark blue borders. Now, I'll change to the header row. And I'll set that with orange shading. And now I'll change to the first column and set that to a golden colour and change the font to say 40. And then just click on OK and save the file. So that's the changes made to my template. Now I would need to upload into Chorus, test, amend and re-upload if necessary, and once it's satisfactory, activate the style sheet and delete the old one from Chorus. So that's actually all I wish to cover in this masterclass. I'll jump back to my PowerPoint and wrap the session up. So first of all, I hope you found the session useful. We'll follow up by email to all of your questions as soon as we can. Before we end the session, however, some next steps. As I mentioned at the start, you can watch this and all of our other masterclasses and webinars again at the nbs.com/events. If you have any further questions or would like to discuss upgrading your subscription, please contact your account manager. And if you're new to NBS and would like more information, please get in touch using the contact details at the bottom of this page. Thanks again for joining, and goodbye for now.